Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. So, how smart is an average bear?
I would hope pretty smart.
Like, you know the phrase, like, you gotta be smarter than your average bear. I say that all the time. But, someone brought to my attention earlier today. They're like, how smart is an average bear? And I'm like, I don't know. Am I calling myself an idiot every time I say that phrase?
No, it's just like one of those phrases that you just talk about, just when you're up in random conversations, just slang. It's like, there's a bear shit in the woods. There's a pope, have a white hat, that type of little...
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? I'm just saying. Anyway, welcome to SPSD, Sore Points and Strong Drinks, the podcast where we drink bourbon, talk healthcare, and obviously talk about other pointless bullshit.
Cheers to that.
I'm your host, Jordan Wright, Dr. Jordan Wright. This is my co-host, Dr. Kitrick Russell. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us for episode 2. If you saw any aspect of episode 1, you know that this is the big insurance episode.
Man, I'm so excited.
Dude, I'm excited.
So excited.
Okay, but I'm excited, but I'm not excited.
You know what I mean? It's a sore point.
And I need a strong drink. It's gonna be a good episode. But at the same time, I get so hyped up about this. And I get so, it boils my skin. And as you saw before you got here, Kayla being a doctoring nurse practitioner, which is my wife, I just brought up to her what we were talking about. I was just running through the set show list of what we were talking about. And her and I just got into this heated debate because I'm from the, PT side of it.
Right.
And she is from the, primary practice side of it. And it's just like the things that I'm raging about, she's raging about something entirely different, and they're butting heads. And I was like, oh, we about to fight. We didn't. I was like, we about to fight. We about to get into an argument. And we didn't. We made very sound points, concessed well, which is how any good conversation should go. But, man, I don't know. It just boils my blood.
As physical therapists, this is the biggest thing besides paperwork. We hate paperwork. Every job has paperwork, and we hate it. But, as physical therapists, insurance is the most difficult thing to deal with because it limits our treatment. Sometimes patients aren't going to come to us because their insurance, they got to pay too much for it. And so it's a daily struggle in the clinic.
Oh, it is.
And most of the time it's because people don't know what they have to pay.
They have no idea.
Or what insurance is. And so we're constantly educating patients on their insurance. There's always a surprise.
We're educated on it, right? I've been in the I've been in the medical field more than a decade now. I've been in PT for at least a decade, and I still don't know everything. In prepping for today's episode, I learned stuff, and I was
Me too.
What the hell? I had no idea that was even a thing. In things that I thought I knew, I actually didn't know.
Yeah. Right.
So it was as much as and. As you know, within our company, in terms of the PTs, I probably know the most about insurance. I literally do some of the deep dive that our admin team does just to take the load off of them, right?
Sure.
So if I'm struggling, imagine how much some of our other PTs are struggling, and then imagine how much your patients are struggling, the Gen Pop are struggling. So
it's so important to be educated about this topic, and that's why we're having this episode, because nobody knows much about it. And it's meant to be that way, right? It's meant to be mysterious so they can make...
That's exactly right. It's meant to not understand, yeah.
Exactly.
And at the bottom dollar, that's exactly what it's about, is the dollar. It's what can we make, how can we profit on an industry that realistically should be non-for-profit.
Right.
And in some places it is.
To add another quick point, about education, we didn't learn this in physical therapy school.
We had tidbits. Well, in my program, we had tidbits. But it should have been huge.
It should have, right? It should have been a whole class. It should have been way more than what it was.
Absolutely.
And, pretty much our program...
It should be taught in high school, if we're being honest.
Man, just like personal finance.
You talk about a well-rounded bachelor's of arts program.
Yeah.
A liberal arts college, right? That should be a core class.
Ideally. Yeah.
Senior year of college, core class, insurance. It's a requirement amongst all schools because we should know this information. Just like you should know different types of bank accounts. What's a high yield savings account? Literally did not learn that until I was 28 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
No clue. No clue. What are education accounts for kids? Most people are having kids by 21. I didn't know what an education account was for my son until 29.
Right.
Right? So there's so much, and you rely on, like, I feel like it's because we used to live in a world where everything was just orally communicated. You pass it down, right? You pass everything down. Nowadays, that's not the case.
No.
And as good as social media is, we're still not talking about some of this stuff. Like, yeah, you might run into a finance bro on TikTok that's giving you a video or something.
Yeah.
But it's so few and far between that somebody's not talking about clothing or something political, and instead they're like, hey, just in case you guys didn't know, here's a really good educational account to throw money into for your children. Hey, just in case you didn't know, here's how to diversify your 401k. Hey, here's how you invest, right? Hey, here's insurance. And we're hopefully trying to fill that niche.
Hopefully.
So,
yeah, as best we can.
Yeah, so bourbon-wise today, we're drinking 1792.
Pretty good.
Pretty good bottle,
Yeah.
right? It's not something I go after all the time, but, you know, one of the things I like is it's got a hint of orange when you first start. It's got a very nice caramel finish, so it's pretty smooth. It's only a $30 bottle, sometimes cheaper. So it's a pretty good bottle, just like pop in, grab, bring home.
It's pretty viscous, like a lot thicker than at least Old Raleigh that we had.
I would say
episode.
that, yeah.
I mean, this isn't your typical viscosity of bourbon. I
No,
mean,
it's definitely a little thinner. I see what you're
Yes,
saying. Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely a little bit of a thinner.
thicker.
Or thicker. You're saying
Yeah.
it's thicker.
Yeah, I'm saying it's thicker because, I mean, it's not like it's hard to. I mean,
Do you think it's like more syrup?
possibly. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of that in there. Maybe. I mean, it's just it's more viscous.
Interesting.
So
Interesting. I don't know. I do like it. It's a very solid choice. I don't know if it's like a sipping bourbon for me.
more of like a chugging bourbon.
Never should you chug bourbon.
No.
But, you know, I think it's like I wouldn't mind mixing this with something. Making a cocktail
yeah.
out of it. Right?
Yeah.
I could use 1792 to make a cocktail. Like I could use Buffalo Trace or something of that nature.
For sure.
Like an old fashioned. Whiskey
absolutely.
sour or something of that nature. But all in all, pretty good. I'm enjoying drinking it. I think it'll be fun to do. And again, this is our goal, right? To have a new bottle of bourbon every episode. Maybe not new to us, but just
True.
a new bottle on each episode.
And at some point, we probably need to kind of, you know, you're talking about cocktails. Like, this would be good to add into a cocktail later for, like, later episodes for where it's a strong drink, but then it's a cocktail drink. You
Oh,
know
yeah,
what
that's
I
not
mean?
bad. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about beer maybe eventually, even though we don't like beer, but...
I don't
mean,
like beer. I'm not a beer fan.
But this could actually be really... This could be something else later in the future, because I can see us putting some kind of, like, twist on, like, a little citrus drink, you know, because you kind
I
of
can see
mentioned
that.
orange.
We can throw a
I
cocktail together, talk about what it's about. I'm
Yeah.
sure the people wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun.
Kit, you know, we've had an interesting week. It's had a really interesting week. Kit, you and I kind of came to blows a little bit this week.
A little bit.
Yeah, you know, it's the first time, right? Now, again,
it
a little bit of a history, but it is. That
Yeah.
wasn't to blows, but a little bit of history. I mean, we've only known each other for, what, 10 months at this point?
10, yeah.
And we got together quick, like we bonded quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And I think this week was a tougher week because, you know, I came in ready to go about the Chiefs. Because we all know that wasn't a good game.
Yeah.
With some very
really.
questionable calls. And, you know, I think, as I tend to do, I kind of carried it on a little bit with your patients. Your patients were coming in and setting the tone.
They were mentioning it like first thing. It's like, well, you had a good weekend. Like,
Yeah.
I sure did.
I mean,
It
your
was
guy at
nice.
the end of the day yesterday walked in and was like, "Oh, we're talking about them Chiefs, right?"
Yeah.
So I think like they were setting the tone, but I was taking it in a little bit, and I think that was the first time that I had really seen you kind of lose steam in the clinic,
Yeah,
and where you
a
were
little
just
bit.
kind of like, "You know what? I'm done," and it was good.
Yeah.
It was good, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, sometimes we get burnt out from, you know, just life in general and stuff like that. And so it's, you know, every PT's gone through that little burnout session. I think, you know, overall the past like month or two have gone into a little burnout little phase.
Well,
So,
it was hard too. So it's also hard on my end, right?
Yeah.
Because as a friend, I'm like, okay, I respect that. As a boss, hear you.
Yeah.
Heard, absolutely. As my personality, I'm like, fuck you. But appropriately,
Yeah,
right?
of
It's
course.
like, wait a
It's
minute,
like-
hold on, hold the phone.
Yeah.
But on the other two fronts, you know, and I think that's the hard part, right? And I get into this all the time with people. And I'm guilty of it, so I am not perfect. But I get into this all the time with people. it is very hard to listen to what somebody has to say, bite your lip, because you're always going to have something to say in response.
Huge.
To bite your lip and then to kind of just be like, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
That's hard.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Because you feel slighted. You feel like maybe something was unfair.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like maybe it could have been brought to you differently. And that none of this is directly correlated with what you said. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, how do I feel about this? But in the moment, you kind of have to remind yourself, it doesn't really matter how I feel about this, right? Yeah. Because you came to me with how you feel. And if I want to be diligent and understanding towards how you feel, I just have to listen. Yeah. I don't need to interject myself into that.
True.
I just have to listen. And that's hard. That is hard.
That is.
I will say that is definitely, as I get older, I don't know, wiser, but as I get older, that's definitely something I'm learning, and it is challenge. And it's a challenge as a boss, too. It really is. It really is a challenge to listen to your employees and not be like, okay, how do I fix this?
Yeah. You kind of, I mean, just putting myself in your shoes, you probably have to, I mean, set a little part of your pride aside, me as well, just, having conversation with my wife or other friends. It's like when you get criticized for something, you kind of have to like pause and reflect. I was talking about this morning. It's like, I haven't had time to reflect. It was nice this morning to do something for myself, going to my nutrition appointment and stuff like that. It was just nice to kind of just sit back and reflect, breathe. Because I mean, like, I want to be the best PT I can for my patients, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we kind of talked about you talked about yesterday about how it's like, when I'm in a conversation with my patients, I want to be in that conversation. There's other conversations around the clinic, we have every day, but it's like got to make sure the patient's always first, and then
that's true.
Obviously you got to take care of yourself too, in order to take care of the patient. So there's a lot going on last like week or two, and just kind of overflowed a little bit.
Well, and I think the hard part too is and now this isn't always true, but I think the immediate response that you have when someone criticizes you is they're doing that out of spite. They're doing that to be mean, to be rude, because they don't like something about me.
Sure.
And sure, sometimes someone's being hateful, sometimes. But that is not always true.
No.
A lot of times you don't fully understand what someone else is going through.
Sure.
Like when you came, when you got here tonight, and I kind of, I looked at you and I said, hey, we had a pretty good day. It was, a little interesting considering our conversation last night. And I was like, how you doing? And you were like, yeah, I'm good. I'm straight.
I asked you how you were doing.
Yeah, you asked me how I was doing.
You didn't talk at all in the clinic. I was like, okay.
And it was fine. But then I was like, how are you doing? And, we were both kind of like, it's been a busy few weeks. And I was like, yeah, does that play any part in it yesterday? And you were like, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Could be. And it was one of those moments where it's just as a reminder to myself, like, listen, Kit's not coming at you. He's not coming at me.
No.
He is just expressing how he feels in the moment. I don't know what else is going on with him. So let's just take that in stride and see if we can make some adjustments. Yeah. Now, if it comes up again and I feel like I fixed the problem, then we have a different conversation.
Yeah, of course.
But in that moment, it's like, oh, okay. He came to me, which is what I asked you to do. Come to me, tell me how you feel, and let's handle that. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. It's a little awkward. We still can learn and grow from it, but I think we did a pretty good job at that.
I mean, I remember you telling me, it's like, hey, if it's too much, let me know. And like, I had that back in my mind. I'm like, okay, it's a little too much today.
Yeah.
It's like, hey. Gotta solve that. And like, I feel like we've had such a good relationship thus far
10 months.
And like our only 10-month history of being friends, it's like, and colleagues of course, but like, I feel like I'm comfortable to have that conversation, and I think you are too. It's like,
it's that old motto, you don't know what battle someone else is fighting.
No, of course not.
Which is why I check in with you all the time. Hey, how you doing? You look a little thrown off. You good?
Yeah.
Hey, you look like this week's hard. You good? And I think that's important. Because you don't know what people are going through, and sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, well, they're just being pissy. No, maybe they're having a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Maybe they're struggling with something, and they just don't feel comfortable talking about it.
That's our patients, that's our family members, friends. Like, I mean, you just never know what somebody's struggling through. I'll never forget this, and maybe you've seen the video before, but when I was an employee at the hospital, they showed us this video about being, passionate and compassionate, sympathy, empathy, and... There's a video camera that goes through the hospital, and then like after each person it passes, it comes up with a little bubble and says, I just found out I had cancer.
Yeah.
I got, 100% on my test. It's like you just never know what that person's going through.
Because most people are really good at being sympathetic, but have zero clue how to be empathetic.
Right.
like zero clue on how
Right.
to be empathetic. And
Right.
I think that's hard for people that are like, I'm a very empathetic person. I will take on whatever you've got going on, right? One of the people that was working at the gym today, she was having a terrible day. Just got reamed out, cussed out, pissed off from the bosses all day long, so on and so forth. And I was like, hey, I don't really know what's going on. Let's take a walk. And so that's what we did. We took a walk, took a lap around the gym. Right? It was nice outside. Took a lap around the gym, came back inside. She was like, I said, do you feel better? She's like, yeah, I do. Thanks. So it was that moment. It didn't really matter what was going on. Yeah. And yeah, I could have said, talk about it, tell me what's wrong. And if she wanted to, she could have. Right? But it was more just, hey, let's take a walk. And then I brought up other stuff. Right? How's this going? What's that looking like? How's this going to be? You know, have you seen Can I Have Your Number by Mad TV? Right? Which I still can't believe how many people haven't seen that, because the back of your head is ridiculous.
Well, some people haven't seen the Key and Peele skits, like we found out last week.
Good Mythical Morning.
Well, I hadn't seen that either. I was
but now you have.
Yeah, but now I
love
have,
it,
right?
right?
I mean, there's.
I still haven't even shown you Bon Qui Qui.
I've seen that.
Have you seen that?
I think.
Welcome to Burger King, where you can have it your way, but don't get crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So you got some stuff. Anyway, so let's get back to something that really is frustrating to people, and let's get back into the insurance.
Yeah.
We have a love-hate relationship. Obviously, insurance helps us do our job, but it sucks.
It does.
And I think today, today what I kind of want to hit on, like the things that I really want to touch on. I mean, you got a variety of them, right? You got your commercial insurances, which are going to be your Blue Cross, your United Healthcare, your Cigna, your Aetna, you know, TRICARE, which although TRICARE is kind of federal, you've got Medicare, Medicaid, which we're going to do a whole other episode on Medicare, Medicaid, because they are their own monster.
Right.
And then you've got the VA, which I think is important to talk about.
Also kind of another monster, but we might include it a little bit.
We'll probably include a little. It's a monster, but more of just like a patient's frustration kind of point of view.
I mean, all this is patient frustration and therapist frustration.
That's fair.
But yeah, there's so many details within each of these insurances. They all, I mean, truly they all suck. Insurance sucks.
Yeah.
Period.
It's unfortunate that we live in a society where the insurance gets to dominate how we practice. And in some ways, it's a PT on the other end, right? When we do peer reviews, where we have to call somebody and they have to check our documentation to make sure that we're doing the right job, that's a PT. But on other ends, it's somebody with a business degree sitting in an office looking at a script, basically saying, no, they don't get more than 5 visits with a post-op rotator cuff repair. And that's hard. Because why? You know?
They don't understand the timeline of rehab, the timeline of what it takes for a post-op rotator cuff repair. And yes, I get it. Like, you know, if you see 50 visits pop up on somebody's, you know, list of visits, and you're like, okay, why are there so many visits? You know, all of our money is getting taken away. I know they got to protect their company, but like, they got to understand this is a rotator cuff surgery.
Correct.
This takes longer than just 5 visits, and it's so easy for them to kind of push patients into their home exercise program.
Correct.
Right? But the home exercise program is only just a beginning of what they should be doing. There's no hands-on skill at home that they can have with us in the clinic. And that's one of our most important skills that we do is manual therapy, dry needling, cupping, soft tissue mobilization with tools. You know, all these things you just can't get at home.
Well,
it's
the education piece.
And the
right?
education,
the
guidance
piece. Yeah, it's the emotional support.
Yeah.
I mean, how often? I mean, you literally had a patient last week that's like, guys, I had a rough week at work. You're about to be my mental health therapist.
Yes.
Now, we're not mental health therapists.
No.
But I can't tell you the amount of times patients have cried in my shoulders. I have just been a support to lean on, not even PT related. You know, my kid is going through this really stressful time. I'm not sure how to parent. My dad just got diagnosed with cancer. You know, things that aren't even related to why they're there, but we're the people that are listening to them.
We're fighting the brain sometimes more than actual muscle or tendon, whatever, you know,
Correct.
piece of the body we're
And I think that
treating.
that's a really valuable component to what we do.
Absolutely.
Is that we take the time to listen. But that's what the insurance side misses.
Yes.
Because in a world where, again, we're focused on the bottom dollar, they don't care about the emotional mental health of certain people.
Of course not.
We don't.
I mean, one more point I'll add to that is like, we we see patients more than any other healthcare provider. I think I said it last episode. We see patients more than any other healthcare provider, so we know more about that patient than maybe some people's primary care providers do. We know their. I know,
It's delicious.
We know their family. We know their medical history. We know what's going on with them currently, what their plans are coming up. And insurance doesn't care.
They don't.
They don't.
They see it as a person on a piece of paper.
Yep.
Which is difficult because that's not how any of us want to be treated.
No.
But so when we get into the insurances, I mean, again, our focus today is really going to be commercial, right? And when we're talking about commercial, we're looking at two major players in terms of plan. You're looking at an HMO and a PPO. Now, an HMO is kind of the health maintenance organization. So from what you and I have looked up, that's more of a smaller network of providers. And I think you do need a referral for certain specialties, right? Yeah, and see, I don't really see a lot of HMOs anymore.
No, I feel like we see more PPOs.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see it on the card, right? The bottom of the card either says HMO or PPO.
Right.
And I think the other big thing with an HMO is that they usually don't do out-of-network. Like, they don't cover any out-of-network services.
Right. No.
Right? So, I think, like an example of that, what I think is Humana. Now, again, preface this, that insurance is changing constantly. So some of this information could be a little different, right? So
Sure.
You know, what we tell patients all the time is that you should always call your insurance provider.
Period.
No
matter what we do, no matter what we try and tell you, you need to contact your insurance provider, because the more you know, the better you're going to be able to make decisions on what you need for your care.
Correct. And it's similar to what I've brought this point up to the clinic to patients before, because we will have people fight, well, I don't want to call the insurance company. Okay, well, you decide to take your job. Let's say it's accounting. You learn everything you need to know about accounting to be a good employee, or at least an average employee. Not everybody wants to be good at their job, but average. That's the same thing about your insurance. Your insurance lives with you for the entirety of your life. Like, well, from the age of 26 when you get kicked off your parents' insurance plan until you die, right?
Yeah.
So,
or at least, it lives with you. I mean, there's an important reason why it lives with you, but like, you're going to change jobs and stuff like that, but you should always have some kind of insurance, and like, just in case, right? Just in case something bad happens, God forbid, knock on wood, all the above. Otherwise, you're going to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your pocket for simple medical procedures or even large medical procedures. So there's an important reason to have it.
correct. So
all
you
the more
need to
reason
understand
to
it.
understand it.
And
Exactly.
I get it, it's hard. I don't like to be on the phone either.
No.
I get it. It's
I
hard.
hate being on the phone.
But you do need to be on the phone.
yes.
But so HMOs, smaller network, requires a referral for specialty that's usually not PT.
Right.
The state of North Carolina is direct access for physical therapy, so you don't need a referral for most commercial insurances. Some you do, Medicare, TRICARE, VA.
Right.
But
VA, but some TRICARE, not all TRICARE.
some TRICARE, not all TRICARE. But it's a lot more restrictive for an HMO. Whereas a PPO, now this is what most people have. This is what we have, right? So a PPO is usually pretty freaking large in terms of the amount of providers that you have. You definitely don't need a referral for specialists. And I think that's a huge hang up for people, right? Not the PPO plan, but like oftentimes we get people that come see us and they check in and they're just thrilled with what we do, right? Because let's face it, we're good at our job. Not to toot our own horn, but toot.
Try to be. We're not perfect.
We can still grow and learn.
Yes.
But, people come and see us all the time, and they sit there and they go, okay, well, I'll go to my doctor and get a referral. Well, who's your insurance? Blue Cross? You don't need it. What? Yeah, you don't need it.
Don't need it.
What do you mean I don't need it? You absolutely don't need it. And one of the cool things our company does, so again, one of the things I like about them the most, is that even if you do need a referral, all you got to do is tell us who your doctor is, and our team will call and get that referral.
It's that easy.
Which is helpful, because not only is that saving our patient time and money, it's just eliminating another barrier, right? It is eliminating another barrier to get patients into the clinic to be able to see us. Right. And I think that is super important.
And with so many barriers in insurance in general, right? Like, a mental barrier for some people is the cost, right? That's one of the biggest things, and we'll get to that. But like, eliminating more barriers by just going directly to a PT to say, hey, I need PT, I know I do, what can you guys do to help me?
Correct.
And that's just in the state of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Other states are different.
Correct.
I think the American Physical Therapy Association is trying to establish direct access with all states. Trying to, but I think a majority of states now, I think over 30 have direct access.
Which is good. I mean, that's celebration worthy in itself. So
yes.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
I think it's just one of those things, like, we rely too much on the referral system.
Yes.
And I get it. The thought process is we have this interdisciplinary system that connects all of your healthcare. This therapeutic alliance connects all of your healthcare providers together. And I wish that that's how it worked. No, but it's so siloed and it's so individualized. And now, my wife and I were badgering on about this downstairs. It's siloed, not all the time for this reason, but a lot of reason because people just don't want to admit that they don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? I have no problem looking at a patient and being like, I have no fucking clue what is wrong with you. Let me find you the person who does.
Amen.
Let me get you to the person that can figure out your problem if I can't do it.
Amen.
And that's nuts because why do we have a problem doing that?
Pride.
And that's bullshit.
It is. It is. It's so some healthcare providers, they want to be that person that solves their problems. And sure, that's great, but you got to ethically understand that if you personally cannot figure out their problem, they're not getting better, you got to find out somebody who does.
Correct.
I mean, we've done that already in the 10 months that we've, known each other and been working together with patients. Like, if I don't know something and I'm not seeing something and I'm not getting the patient better, I'm going to say, hey, Jordan, go in a blind eye and look at this patient for me because I don't know what's going on. I've been treating maybe around the actual direct cause, but I haven't gotten to that one thing that's going to get that patient 100% better.
Correct.
And that's what all healthcare providers should do, but they don't.
Well, and I think it's one of the smartest things to do. I have students all the time, right? I've taken a vast majority of students over the years for clinical practicums. And one of the first things I do is I put them into their position with the patient and I say, hey, get your hands in there. Let's go. If they're at that stage. Sometimes I take like a first year student, so they need a little more coaching. But if it's the end of your clinical system, your time, and I'm going to throw you into the patient and I want to see what happens. I want you to ask me for help. I want you to be like, I don't know. Because that's not a bad thing, right? Because I was in my clinical practicum one time, and this was when I was doing some stuff in the prison system, and I looked at my clinical instructor, and I was like, I don't know the answer. And she's like, out in the hall. And we walked out in the hall, and she's like, you don't say I don't know in front of the patient. I was like, why? I don't know. I want to. There's a thin line between confidence and cocky, right? And you have to ride that line.
Right.
And if you don't know, you are doing more damage to that patient by pretending like you do.
Absolutely.
And how long are you holding them into therapy?
Absolutely.
How long are you not giving them an answer and they're just sitting in pain? And our whole goal is to stop that.
Right.
And that's across the board. That's across every medical health professional.
There's an article out there called Words That Harm, Words That Heal. And there's a fine line between telling a patient you really don't know or telling them, hey, you have cancer, or that you gotta word and educate the patient properly in order to give them the best care.
Correct.
So, long story short, direct access for a physical therapist is very nice. You don't need a referral for insurance to cover it, and we can send you out to somebody who, like a primary care provider or even a GI specialist, a pulmonologist, cardiologist, whoever. We can get you to that right person.
We need to be working together.
Exactly.
Right? We need to be, because blanket statement, literally I want to put this in quotes that flash across our PT clinic. You do not have to live your life in pain.
Correct.
You do not have to. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you've been to 30 different specialists. Let's get you out of pain. Because there is a way to either get you out of pain or dramatically reduce your pain so that it is minimal. Some cases, not necessarily. There are, some points that are different, but you do not have to live your life in pain. And as a healthcare professional, it is our job, as a doctor of physical therapy, it is our job to assist patients no matter what that path looks like.
Amen.
Right? No matter what it looks like. And so you got to take your damn pride out of it, take your cocky arrogance of I know all be all, and take it out of the clinic. right? And you have to be humbled every fucking day.
At some point, I want to put a picture up there for everybody to view, and like a little web chart that says, okay, you can go to your primary care first. Sure, that's your cheapest copay. But where are you going to go from there if they do or do not know your problem?
Correct.
Right? I've drawn it out before myself, for a patient, and I want to do it like, and give everybody a view of it on the computer screen.
Get one of those old ass projectors.
Oh, seriously?
And flash it on the wall.
Seriously?
They even still make those.
Oh,
dude, those were the
you
jam.
can probably find them at like a little old store somewhere.
Antiquing. We're gonna have to go antiquing.
Oh,
we love antiquing.
Are you talking about the ones like you write there and then it like projects up?
Yeah, it projects up through the
gosh,
camera, and then if you want to go to the next thing, you have to crank it, and it slides the cellophane down, where you spray it off.
I'm having a flashback to 4th grade because all she did was sit up there in that projector and just write.
Call her
math
out. Say your
problems.
name.
Miss Blair?
Miss Blair.
If she's still alive, I hope.
Oh.
I mean, hey, I'm 30 now. Like,
well, that's old.
She was older. And
I will say that since turning 30, I might be struggling a little bit. 30 is supposed to be the best time of your life, and I might be struggling a little bit. I might be having some aches and cranks and some things that hurt more than they used to hurt, even though I'm active as all get out.
It's okay. We have direct access. We're good.
Hey. Okay, so back to insurance.
Yes.
So, we were in our PPO plan, which is a preferred provider organization. And when you're looking at PPOs, the most common thing that people ask us, are we in network?
Correct.
In network versus out of network, right? And so in network, you have an agreement, like your insurance plan has an agreement with this healthcare professional to have a specified rate. Where out of network, you're basically whatever, like let's say you go to your primary care and you get a physical and that primary care is out of network. So they bill $500. Well, if they're out of network, there's no discount. You just pay that $500, right? But if they're in network, there might be a negotiated rate to where instead of $500, it's $50. So it always pays to be in network. Sometimes that doesn't work, vice versa.
In general, you go to a provider that you trust, that you know.
Always.
Regardless of insurance, and we can get into that, but like with a PPO, you have in-network and out-of-network. You got to ideally you want to find those in-network providers that can cost you, less than an out-of-network, but
bottom
like
dollar.
But ideally you want to go to somebody who's, knows what they're doing. That's
correct.
So,
and there are a couple other types of insurance plans out there, but I feel like these were the most popular. Like there's point of service and things like that, but these are definitely the most popular.
Yes.
And then I thought it was funny because we're typing up this outline in this document, and I put in there types of PPO, and you opened it up and you looked at it and said, "There's multiple types of PTO."
No idea.
It was like, yeah, and this is where the breakdown happens because this next part is what people don't know. Right? So you're looking at 2 types of plans. 3-ish kind of, but mostly 2. You're looking at an HDHP, which is a high deductible health plan. Now that's the plan historically what I've always done. Because with a high deductible health plan, you get an HSA. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But a high deductible health plan means that you have a set limit. Right? So I remember at my last job, my set limit was $5,000. So anytime I had to go to the doctor throughout the year, I had to pay whatever it was, whatever their limit was for that visit. So for our physical therapy company, if you have a high deductible health plan, you pay $95 per visit.
That's it. No more.
That's it. No more. And we're really good about that. Not all places are. But you pay $95 per visit. And you pay that all the way until you hit your deductible. Now, that's all of your medical bills all at once. So if you go see PT, you go see your mental health therapist, you go see a chiropractor, you go see... you got to get a mole removed off of your ass, then that is all going towards your deductible.
Exactly.
Right? And once you hit that deductible, then that's when your co-insurance kicks in.
Which, we'll get into later. But yes, the high deductible, although, it's a lot to hit. Some are higher than others, especially if you have a family plan, which we'll get into. But if you have a family plan, that's even higher to hit. So it
depends on if it's embedded or if it's aggregate.
So this is something I didn't know.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to learn a lot today.
Yeah. This is why it's complicated, right? Because you look at embedded and you look at aggregate. Now, those words seem daunting at first, but inherently, an aggregate plan is the entire family, which means that the total family deductible has to be hit. And then once that's hit, then your insurance starts to pay. And that's the same with a regular deductible. If it's just you and you're a single individual and you have a deductible, you have to hit your deductible and then your insurance will start to pay for things, right?
Right.
Now, you might get your EOB, which is a really, really important acronym, right? It's the estimation of benefits.
Right.
And that's super important.
Estimation.
Because exactly, it's an estimation. I can't tell you how many times I go to the clinic, Jordan, I got my EOB and it says I owe $500. Wait a minute. Hold the hell on. It is an EOB. It's an estimation. We never charge more than $95. We tell patients that, but sometimes it doesn't sit with them.
Right.
But we never charge more than $95. What your insurance is saying is this could be the total cost. But what's key on there, and this is what, okay, we're going to take a second. This is what people need to read their EOBs for. And if you don't know how to read an EOB, you need to. Because one of the things that's on an EOB that your insurance company does not tell the provider, especially in the PT world, is what you can get treated for versus what you can't. So we bill out units. We bill out amongst 4 codes: manual therapy, exercise, functional therapeutic activity, and neuromuscular reeducation, which is training you to squeeze muscles, learn how to use muscles in the right way, right?
Re-educating.
Educate. And sometimes insurance doesn't want to pay for that, right? There are certain insurances that will not pay for manual therapy.
A lot more than there should be.
Yeah. And so, but they don't tell us that.
No.
But they will tell you that in your EOB. So it's really important for a patient to read their EOB because it says, and to try to read it as quick as possible, right? Because you get that EOB after the first couple visits. And so you need to read that and you need to be like, oh, wait a minute, they're not paying for STEM, electrical stimulation. I need to stop having my provider charge that because I don't want to have to pay that out of pocket. But instead what happens is people ignore that because they have no idea how they're reading it. And that's not just your regular Joe Schmo, right? That's not Patty Sue down the block. That is my PAs, my NPs, my PTs, my MDs who have no idea how to read an EOB. And that's their whole damn world.
I mean, I didn't before I came to Best.
Yeah.
It's like, I may have seen that before, like, okay, this is what this is on charges, whatever. But then, like, when you lay it out and you understand kind of a little bit more what that is, it's like, okay, I need to be reading this every, yearly.
Correct. But you need to understand your EOB. But again, coming back to it, so when you're thinking about your deductible plan, right? The aggregate, again, means that the family has to hit their deductible. And once they hit that, you go to your coinsurance. If you have a coinsurance. Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you
don't. The embedded means that every individual has to hit their deductible. So I have a $4,000 deductible. My wife has a $4,000 deductible. My son has a $4,000 deductible. Now, if my wife hits her deductible, that doesn't mean a damn thing if I haven't hit mine. Because if I go for my care, I still have to hit my deductible. Whereas a family, if we've hit our family deductible, then it doesn't matter who goes. We all get to hit the coinsurance. So that's kind of the difference between the aggregate and the embedded.
So ideally, I guess it depends on the situation,
Correct.
right? Like, for instance, say you have an embedded plan.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one family member has a little bit more healthcare costs to go to, and so that person is going to, maybe fill up their deductible pretty quick.
Correct.
As opposed to maybe 2 other family members have no health problems, nothing like that. And so it's better for that family to choose that embedded plan with that one person that needs a lot more care.
But that gets a little more complicated because then we get into our second type of PPO, which is the copay plan, right? And that's what we have.
Yes.
Now, that's what we have because that's really our only choice,
Right.
which is fine. But I kind of like it,
Yeah.
right? Now, historically, I have always been a high deductible plan because I like my HSA. But that copay plan is actually really nice. And what a copay plan is, right, is it's just a fixed amount.
That's it.
Right? So your card will generally have specifics, right?
Most.
Most, not all. Some cards I look at them and I'm like, this tells me jack.
No, I can't. There's been so many of those where I'm just like, God,
Which
I really wish I
again
knew more about this.
Is a problem with the healthcare. Why the hell are you printing a card with literally nothing but
the name and the ID
the subscriber
number.
ID number on it? Like fuck
what?
that. Come on.
It's like, okay, here's this card, but then read the 20 pages after that comes in the mail. It's
Also,
like,
low
nobody's
key
gonna read
tip,
that.
you can put, if you have an iPhone, you can put your health insurance card on your Apple Wallet.
Yes, you can.
And
Absolutely.
you need to. You can also put your driver's license.
But you can also download an app depending on your insurance too. Well, each insurance should have an an app to download. Like Blue Cross is pretty easy to navigate. You should be able to sometimes you should be able to have it on your phone in your app too.
Yeah.
But yes, like a copay fixed amount, that is very nice to have. Like that's what it is on the card. Boom, that's what your payment is.
And it varies.
Yes.
Right? So we get into this conversation a lot because people come to us and their copay on their card for primary care, $0. And so they come in and they're like, you're going to charge me $0. Well, why? Well, because it says primary care. Honey, I wish we were primary care.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. But we are trying to be primary care, which is on us a little bit.
Yes.
It's a different conversation. But most insurances consider physical therapy a specialty. And your specialty copay is going to be different than your primary care copay. And that's a big difference for a lot of people. And some of them are even different. Wake Med hospitals, for those of us that live in North Carolina, right? Wake Med has a Wake Med primary care, Wake Med non-primary care, non-Wake Med non-primary care. What the fuck?
Wake Med urgent care.
Yeah, Wake Med urgent care. Like, it's such a... Again, it's designed to be difficult.
Exactly. It's
right?
designed to be difficult, so the more confusing it is, the more you don't know, and the more that you want to pay, the more that you're just going to pay.
Yeah, and again, some people can have a flat copay. You can have a flat copay all year. Yeah. $25. That's how much it costs you to come to PT all year long. Right?
Yeah. There's a couple patients
like
that.
No, so let me ask you, at what point would I choose a copay over a high deductible? Like, because the way I've thought about this, and the way that I've always kind of gone, and I'm interested in your thoughts on how you would choose it for you and your family.
Yeah.
But I have historically, I hardly ever get sick. Like, if I get sick, it's like once every few years, and it's usually like, that year I got shingles.
You got shingles?
I got shingles at 23.
What?
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I don't think you've ever told me that.
Yeah,
Maybe you did mention it once, but like...
right around my waist. Worst pain I've ever had. Unimaginable. Huh. Or that last year when I got pneumonia for a month.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And still came to work. Still came to work.
Yep.
Every day for a month.
Uh-huh.
With pneumonia. Was it the best idea? No. Did I need to work? Yes. But, you know, when you get sick a lot, a copay plan is going to be a better option.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right. Because then you're just paying that just one little copay every little time you get sick because you're going to the doctor often.
The downside of that is you pay more, like just up front frequently, right?
Right.
But I almost wonder if it kind of odds out because the way I've always done a high deductible plan is I don't go to the doctor enough. So I never really use it. But I still get the HSA benefit.
Correct.
So I've always liked that. So that's kind of been my thought process on it.
No, I would agree. I think that's mine too. And, you know, just doing more of this research just by us having this conversation, preparing for this, like, you know, you understand it a little bit more now. Mm-hmm. Again, that's why we recommend everybody look at their insurance and really understand this because, you know, would we have picked maybe a different plan? Mm-hmm. Maybe. You know, your employer only offers so many plans, right?
Correct.
You know, it's like I'm on my wife's insurance and they just happen to be paying for a lot of it. So it makes sense that we go on her insurance because we're paying less, even though, you know, maybe I might have just a little bit better benefits with ours.
Well, that's hard too, right? So you look at it, and I think that's one of the struggles about insurance too. My wife works for Duke, and Duke's healthcare, fantastic. I would love to go on her plan, but her premiums, which is how much you pay for your health insurance, those things shoot through the freaking roof as soon as you add me on there.
Family, yeah.
Like for her premiums, maybe a monthly premium is like $100, right? You add our son, maybe like $200. You add me, it's like $600.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the what? Excuse me?
That's almost every family plan.
It's crazy because why are you doing that?
Money. I mean, that's it. I mean, we're reaching another pattern here. It's like, where can you save the money? Because they're going to want money either way. Like, you know, we'll get into this down the line, but like, your employer pays for part of your insurance. You don't just pay just part of your paycheck and that's it. Like, your employer also pays for that.
Correct.
You it's just, again, where do you want to save the money? And yeah.
Well, and so we get into, look, you have your deductible. You've hit your deductible. Now you pay your coinsurance. And a coinsurance is typically a percentage. Now, and we're talking about this because, I mean, I have 45-year-old patients that have never heard these words in their life. Like, they walk in the clinic, I'm like, what, you know you have a coinsurance? What's a coinsurance? Right? So a coinsurance is the percentage that you pay. So, like, let's say our rate's $95, right? And your coinsurance is 10%. So you pay 10% of $95, which equates somewhere around like $7.70, something like that. Really but what we generally charge. Yeah. So that's, actually, I think that's if your copay is 77, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. But the point still being that this is what you are paying as part of your coinsurance. And then you pay on your coinsurance until you hit the next big ticket item, which is your out-of-pocket max. Now, your out-of-pocket max is traditionally harder to hit. So, like, let's say your deductible is $5,000. Your out-of-pocket max might be like $15,000. Right?
That's going to be really hard to hit.
Yeah, and every plan is different. But I mean, those are people who are hitting their out-of-pocket maxes are surgical patients. Right? Yeah. Post-op knee replacements, rotator cuffs, fusions, things like that.
Right. And if you have again, this is how you can kind of set up your insurance. If you know that, hey, I'm going to get that total knee replacement that I've been putting off for 20 years, or okay, maybe not that long, 10 years, or whatever it is, rotator cuff repair, whatever. It's like, okay, maybe I can set my plan to a lower out-of-pocket max, lower deductible. That way this year I can use that.
Because
things are cheaper.
Once you hit your out-of-pocket max, that's it. You don't pay anything else for the rest of the year. So we have some patients who have just phenomenal insurance. Now, granted, they pay a higher premium.
True.
But they have phenomenal insurance. And what happens with them is they hit their out-of-pocket max in February. Mm-hmm. And then from February to December, they owe nothing for any medical thing ever. Yep. Which is incredible for them. Yes. Because realistically, that's how it should be. That's a different conversation, different day. But they owe nothing. Nothing. And that's amazing. I mean, you saw... Right? This is your first big year in outpatient orthopedics. Right. And you saw November and December in the clinic because traditionally people hit their out-of-pocket November, December because they've had a whole year of paying for medical bills, right? So November and December, people have hit their out-of-pocket. We're literally, I want to come in every day for the next 2 months.
Okay.
Cool.
Sure.
Great. I wish we could do this all year. Yeah. Absolutely. You've got 30,000 medical issues. Let's fix them. Yes. Right?
But
if it's medically necessary.
Yes, 100%. Which we'll get to later, but as long as you don't have a limit.
Yeah, visit limits.
So there are visit limits to insurance, unfortunately.
Some of them are trash.
Some of them are like 20 visits. I had a couple of those last year. I'm like, 20 visits? That's not even like a full total knee replacement. Correct. That's not even a full rotator cuff repair.
Well, I think I told you about the gal. I love this gal. Her name's Tracy. She's phenomenal. Still keep in touch with her. I treated this gal, so when she was a child... she had basically her hip degraded. Like her hip joint basically just died. And because she was a child, the doctors were like, just deal with it. Because we don't want to have to do a revision of your hip replacement and surgeries every year. Just deal with it. So she did. So she came and saw me a few years ago and we worked on her hip and we were moving her around and everything. And I mean, it was tough, right? She had a lot of stiffness, a lot of issues, but we got her some motion. And we did that for a while, and then finally she's like, Jordan, I think this is the time. Now, she's older at this point. She's mid-50s. And she's like, I think this is the time to get my hip replacement. Now, this lady's cool as hell. Loved coming in, talking to me about movies, rock music, all this stuff. Very still 80s soul. She was wonderful. And so she's thrilled. She's like, I'm coming to you after my hip replacement. You've been amazing. I'm coming to you. So she comes to me after a hip replacement. This has been a hip replacement of the issues that she's been having for 40 years. Compensations, changes that her body's made for 40 years. And we're finally able to start cracking down on them. 20 visits. United Healthcare. 20 fucking visits. And she sobbed. She sobbed. Yeah. Because once she hit her visit limit, everything else she has to pay out of pocket. She has to pay the self-pay rate. Because her insurance physically won't pay for more. And that sucks. Because, now granted, you also have to put this on the patient because they're the ones that clicked that button.
True, but
it's not clearly spelled out.
It's not, and they say it is, right? Yeah. Like when you choose a plan from your employer that your employer gives you. I mean, yeah, you might have just 3 plans to choose from, but it's there. But then it may not break down physical therapy visits specifically, and all, those things. And
well, it's like if I needed a surgery, right? Yeah. I picked my healthcare plan, and I'm pretty snazzy. and savvy on healthcare, I don't look at see how much anesthesia is going to cost if
Oh,
I need
God,
an outpatient
no.
surgery.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you expect patients to think to take the time to look at how many visits they're going to get for PT? They don't even know if they need PT. They haven't even thought about that.
No. No, of
And
course
it's not fair. And then you look at things like authorization. So authorization inherently is what?
Authorization is we do an initial evaluation on a patient.
Correct.
At that point, we deem that this patient is medically necessary to see physical therapy in order to improve their health and functional outcomes.
Correct.
We send, if a patient's insurance requires authorization, we have to take that initial eval, send it off to insurance, put in certain codes that we're going to treat them for.
Correct.
And they say yes, they say no, and they say how many visits. And sometimes it's no problem at all, like Humana. Humana is really not much of a problem when it comes to that.
Medicare is not usually a problem.
No, well, of course, yeah, no. But
State health plans.
state health plan is not a problem.
Never a problem.
No. But then sometimes you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield that just started authorizations.
And it's
8
frustrating.
visits within, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months or something like that. And it's like, 8 visits just for this?
Yeah.
Like,
Which again is twice a week, right? Let's say they give you 8 visits in a month. That's twice a week, which is fine
for certain.
for certain things. But some people need 3 times a week.
Yes.
Honestly, I have patients that could probably benefit from 4 times a week, right? If their insurance covered it. But most of the time, it doesn't, which is unfortunate because you're talking about people that are morbidly obese, tons of chronic illnesses and diseases, tons of, malpractice from the healthcare system itself that has put them in a poor position, right? Maybe they've had a terrible car accident.
We've talked about chronic pain and how chronic pain, that takes months, maybe years to fix. And if they don't have enough visits for us to see them more than 30 times or 20 times or even 8 within a 2-month span, how are they going to get better?
And now this is a big one, just because your primary care doctor writes you a referral does not mean you are authorized. It also does not mean that it's gonna be free.
And it also doesn't mean 2 times a week for 8 weeks. That's what's listed on the frequency.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's
such a cookie cutter thing to do.
It is.
Oh, you had a post-op rotator cuff repair, which is close to a 6-month rehab process, if not longer, if you're doing it the right way.
Right.
Oh, okay. Go see them twice a week for 3 weeks. What? Come again? Huh? Oh, you broke your toe? Go see them once a week for 6 weeks. What?
And my favorite is they come in and say, hey, my doctor told me about 2 times a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. Well, okay, hold on. This is a total knee replacement. This is whatever. Like, this is what I deem that we could probably benefit from. This is my prognosis is saying how long this takes. Because I'm a separate provider than a primary care provider.
Correct.
Like, I know more about rehab than a primary care provider does. Your primary care provider does not know exercises. If they do, it's probably very limited, very limited to what I know.
And that's not their fault. They have a very large scope.
Yes.
That is not necessary. They are a general healthcare provider.
General.
We are the musculoskeletal experts.
Correct.
Right? And that goes back to that interdisciplinary thing we were talking about, the healthcare alliance, the triaging. Refer to us to make those decisions.
Correct.
And some providers do. They say, I just write that because I have to. But I trust the PT to tell you how much you need to go. Some providers are really, really great at that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's not. And so the patient has in their brain, they think, I'm only going to come for 4 visits. Now, this is a touchy thing because you're going to run into this. This plays a big portion in the PT world. How often should a patient come see us? Right?
Depends.
And the insurance plays on that. And you're right, it does depend. I generally tell patients, everybody in this world, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the fittest, most active, most incredibly eating, talented human being on the face of the planet. You need physical therapy.
You do.
At least once a week. If you meet that criteria.
We need physical therapy.
If you PTs need PT. We say that every day. If you are the LeBron James, the Tom Brady, the Usain Bolt, the most talented athlete, they still get physical therapy. They all do.
They all do.
Even on the off season, they still get physical therapy, right? Now come to our patients that are day-to-day lives, who have poor posture, poor eating habits, poor exercise habits, poor cardiovascular endurance.
Very active job and lifestyle.
Kids.
Yeah.
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 Poor sleep. Those people need at least 2. Yeah. So in my professional opinion, and what I told you when you first started, what I've always told new employees, new students, new PTs, Every patient that walks through that door could benefit from 2 times a week. Now, should we keep in mind their financial situation? Yes. Should we keep in mind, I had a woman one time that had 6 kids. Single mom, 6 kids.
Oh, man. Wow.
Of course she's not coming to PT twice a week.
Yeah.
It's just enough for her to come once a month, right? And I will work with my patients to fit what they have, because I don't want finances to be a barrier to physical therapy. I don't want there to be a reason that you can't get better.
Right.
But I do know what's going to work the best for you.
And we always give that, like, hey, this is what you'd benefit from. We allow that patient to kind of contemplate it, stuff like that, because that's our medical opinion.
Perfect world.
Yes,
this is what I would do.
Perfect world, right? This is our medical opinion. This is what we are paid to do.
This is what the research tells us is going to get there.
Great comment there.
Right.
This is what the research tells us, and the article states that ideally prognosis is about 6 weeks, 6 months, what have you.
Because we're also looking at healing timelines.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
How long does a muscle take to heal? How long does a tendon take to heal?
Last time.
Oh, we didn't do muscle of the week.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, well,
dude, failure. This was your thing.
Well, no, I'm thinking like separate little small episodes for those.
What, like a little blurb?
Yeah, like
an
15
ad.
minutes.
We're gonna throw an ad in a Mr. Beast video. Welcome to Sore Point Strong Drinks Muscle of the Week. It's a jingle.
I'm telling you, it's happening.
Listen,
we're
whatever.
making it happen. Anyway,
Mr.
back
Beast?
on track. Anyway, back on track. Like, we dictate that prognosis just to tell a patient initially of what we think, and then they can make those decisions for themselves.
Correct.
Whether they want to listen to that or whether they just want to do once a month, every couple weeks. We have all varieties of patients that make those decisions.
Correct.
But your insurance, to kind of conclude it up, your insurance shouldn't dictate that.
No, it shouldn't.
They should not be authorizing any limited amount of visits because of this.
Correct.
And I get the understanding of it being a business, right? Like you gotta, like your insurance it's not a charity necessarily, but at the same time you are paying for it through your, each paycheck. Your employer's paying through that. If you're paying for that, you shouldn't go through all these hoops and ladders in order to get the care that you're paying for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And again, I want to finish up on a couple topics because I think we're actually going to have to do a couple episodes on this, buddy.
I was going to say, this is taking a lot longer than I thought. I may actually pour a little bit more bourbon here in a second.
Listen, go for it. This is free to share. Community bourbon. I want to touch on a couple more things, and I think we might have to hold off on some stuff till the next episode. But, claims.
Claims. Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing. So a lot of people will come to me, and they'll be like, Jordan, my first visit with you was 5 months ago. Why am I just now getting a bill for that visit? And that's a tough question. And that's a tough question on 2 parts, because I do take fault with that in my own regard, right? Because if I were more on top of it, I should have paid attention to that. I should have seen that. So should the patient, because that's where your EOB comes into play, right? So should the patient. But the reason that happens is it's because how long the insurance company takes to file claims.
Correct.
And that's the rub.
I'll give you a great example a couple times. We've talked about them before, but just for everybody listening, there's a patient right now that I've been seeing for a while. I haven't told you about this yet. Been seeing for a while.
I feel like as your boss, that statement should never be made.
What?
I haven't told you about this yet.
Oh. Well, it's like I keep you informed about what's going on so that way hey,
I'm just saying,
I'm about to make this call. I'm about to tell this patient.
I'm not telling you that I just cringed a little bit when you said that, but I cringed.
These are things that happen all the time. And plus
just don't leave me in the dark, brother. Just don't leave me in the dark.
It's fine, man. It's fine. Well, let me get to the point. So he's been paying $30 a visit, every visit. Up until recently, found out claims went through, and he actually owes $95 a visit for a couple.
Ugh.
And it's like, it didn't happen until after the fact, many visits later. And how are we supposed to break that bad news, right? It's like, we don't want to tell people that, but what the copay said was $30.
Yeah.
So that's what we collected. What insurance told us to collect at
that part. Time. That part right there, because, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
But because we tell people every visit, and as a PT, if you don't do this, you should. You need to tell every single patient, hey, you need to call your insurance after our visit today so that you could check and see how much you owe. Because here's what has happened. I swear to you that this is what has happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
I have called the insurance, and the insurance has said, hey, they owe $30 and it's unlimited visits. Amazing. The patient has called the insurance. Hey, they owe $40 and it's 30 visits. So the patient has come back to me. Hey, they told me something different than they told you. That's weird. Let me call them again. Hey, they owe $50 and it's 20 visits. This is the same insurance company on 3 different occasions telling us 3 different numbers, right? The people who are in charge of this. So naturally, when that bill hits the patient, who do they get mad at?
Us.
Yeah. And I feel that because I would too.
I would too.
But it is not, it's not on us. And it's not on the patient. It's on the insurance company.
Going back to that, empathetic piece that we talked about earlier, it's like, we have such a good way of like feeling what patients can feel, right? It's like, we know about the body, we kind of know a little bit about what their pain is, where it's at, stuff like that. But then we can also feel if this happened to us in a situation, we would be pissed too.
Correct.
So we hate doing it. But we have to, because
never ever in my entire life do I want to look at somebody that I am treating and say, hey, you owe money.
Yeah, no.
Ever. There's never a point, especially when you're making progress. Yeah. It is soul crushing to see someone, destroys me, to see someone making progress and to tell them that their insurance misquoted them and they actually owe $500. And it's someone who maybe is living paycheck to paycheck.
300 in my case.
Yeah, $300. And again, someone who's maybe living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastating. Knowing that they need care.
Right.
Knowing that this is the only insurance plan that they could afford. Right? And they can't do anything for their health because they can't afford it. And people wonder why our healthcare system is such shit. Why it is so broken and so flawed. And it's that reason right there. I know you need help.
Yes.
I know you need assistance. I am going to charge you an arm and a leg to get it. Why? Why? And then I'm going to misquote you. And then when you call me because I misquoted you, I'm going to tell you, oh, well. Because that's the other thing that insurance companies don't do. They do not take accountability.
No.
Ever.
Of course not. It's because they're making money.
Correct.
They don't care. They made their money. That's all they care about. They don't care about your health.
No.
They, in fact, they try. They say, hey, you can go to all these preventative care places like your primary care to make sure that you stay healthy, to make sure that we don't have to pay more money.
Correct.
But they don't care.
They don't.
They don't.
And that's I cannot tell people this enough. At the end of the day, your insurance doesn't give shit about you.
No.
Right? They do not care who you are, what you are, how you are. All they care about is that you were paying them money. That's all they care about. Period, point blank. And if the sooner you understand that and the sooner you learn that, the easier it will be for you to navigate the healthcare field. Right? So, again, back to claims. The reason that claims happen. So sometimes a patient the other day said, hey, I got a refund for like $2,000. Why is that? It wasn't us. It was a surgery that they got.
Oh, they are.
And it's like, yeah, we got a refund from the surgery for like $2,000. And they're like, I just assumed that they messed up. And I said, no, they didn't. I said, what happened is that you had a bunch of medical procedures earlier than your surgery. By the time your surgery and your insurance agreed on a rate. And so you paid that. But by the time that you paid that, your other claims from your other medical visits went through. So you had already met your deductible. So that rate was wrong. So your insurance had to refund you. That's what happened to my wife's pregnancy, right? We paid all this money, and then a couple months later, we got it right back. And I was like, oh, because all of her OBGYN appointments beforehand, she had met her deductible.
Yeah.
So we got all that money back. So sometimes claims are delayed. Sometimes you'll get a refund. Sometimes you'll get a bill. And that bill that's across every healthcare industry, right? Not just PT. But that bill exists because something went wrong in the chain of command. And oftentimes, it is on the insurance company's fault. It is on their side. Now, sometimes it's on the PT side. I have fucked up. I have misread a patient's insurance or not done my due diligence or not gone the pathway that I should have. And I will take onus on that on patients all the time. I am sorry. Did I tell you one time? I won't say who, but there has been somebody in the clinic where I messed up her insurance. She had a $300 bill. I paid it.
Yeah.
I paid it out of my pocket. Because if I had left it up to the devices of the way it worked, she would have had to pay that. Yeah. And I knew for a fact that if she paid that, she was never coming back. I knew it, and she needed to come back.
Yeah.
She 100% needed to come back. So I paid it.
Yeah.
And she has no idea. She has no clue. She never will, right?
It doesn't matter.
Nobody ever will.
No.
The point of the matter was, I knew that I messed up. I knew that if I had done a little bit more due diligence, I could have figured that out and we could have solved that way ahead of time. But because I didn't, she had a $300 bill. So I said, I'll pay that. And I paid it, right?
Respectful.
So it's those moments, and not everybody can do that, right? I understand that I'm in a very fortunate situation to be able to do that.
Well,
But
even if you're not, that's very great of you to do that. Like, most people will just turn a blind eye and be like,
well,
sorry.
Again, I don't want your insurance, your financials, there should be no reason that you live in pain.
No.
Ever.
No.
Ever. Point blank.
No.
And the fact that we put so many barriers and so many checks and balances in the way to stop you from getting the help that you need as someone who lives in this great country, in this great place, with all of these freedoms and all of these luxuries and some of the top medical providers in the world, and you can't get the care you need, is wrong.
Correct.
And there are shitty healthcare professionals out there. Blanket statement. There are. There are people, just like in any job, who have gotten their job and have just quit. They've not put in the time. They've not put in the effort. They've given up. They're just there to make a paycheck. And I am sorry to anybody that ever runs into anybody like that, because it sucks and I know it. But the two things I will tell you is that you do not have to live your life in pain, and nobody can tell you what your pain is. I've had patients come to the clinic where somebody has said, your pain, my last doctor told me my pain was in my head.
I've heard that a lot too.
No, your pain is as real as you are.
Yep.
Your pain exists. It is a personal experience, and nobody can tell you otherwise.
I can't believe people actually say that. It's like, yes, it is in their head, literally. There's a reason why they're getting that signal.
One a little flavor down the line is I'm going to tell a story one time of interactions that I've had with doctors and some of the wild things that they have said to their patients. And that's a little bit of a tidbit for down the line, but that is some of the stuff that happens. But, I think this is probably a good point to stop. You know, our next episode, we really need to chime into things, HSA, FSAs, some of the benefits of insurance, like some of the good things. Because there are good things.
Of course.
We didn't really dive into that.
Right.
But there are good things. And then how that affects the PT world.
For instance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, if you have Blue Cross, you get nutrition for free.
Absolutely.
So that
Blue
is
Cross, Aetna, or Cigna.
Blue Cross, I always forget those two. Yeah. Blue Cross, Aetna, or Cigna, free
registered
nutrition.
dietitian, completely free.
Yeah. And nobody knew that. I didn't know that before I joined this company.
A lot of Blue Cross Blue Shield plans for mental health therapy, $20.
Yeah. Didn't know that.
Yep.
It's like
$20.
You never know until you do a little bit of research. And I think if we can kind of close this episode up, I think we can kind of say that insurance sucks, period.
Terrible. Point
sucks. Blank. You should never have to live in pain. Educate yourself on what your insurance is, how much you owe, what your true benefits are, what, do your whole, sit there for hours if you need to kind of look and call the insurance companies and say, what exactly is this plan? Why is it better than this one? Why is it different? Those things. Make sure you know all that information before signing up. And then once you sign up, make sure you have that all in your head to make that true good medical decision or true health decision for yourself to make sure your life is fun, enjoyable.
Nobody's going to do the work for you.
No.
And you can believe that they will, and you will get hit with the burden of that belief.
You will, and we've seen it.
Yeah. Nobody's going to do the work for you. You have to put in the work yourself. Yeah. But listen, if we touched on stuff that you guys love, let us know. If there's questions that you have, drop it in the comments. Talk about the things that you want to hear. Tell us what you want to know. Tell us things that don't make sense. Send us your story. Maybe we talk about some of that stuff on there.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some comments and see what the stories are.
Absolutely.
Ask us questions. As always, like, subscribe, follow. That's how you're going to know some of the stuff we talk about. Here's some of the things we point out. Here's some of the bourbons. I'm kind of looking forward to those Chiefs losing next weekend. Listen, as long as the refs aren't throwing some bullshit penalties.
Again, I'll say it. I've said it once. I'll say it multiple times again. We have been on that receiving end.
But that doesn't mean it needs to keep going.
I know. It's hard for me to look past it. It's hard for me to say, you know what? that happened to us too. I guess we should probably not let this happen this time. But it's like if multiple calls would have been called in the past, we would probably be sitting here at maybe 6 Super Bowls.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
I'm sure every NFL team has said that ever.
Well, I'll never forget the Saints loss to the, oh gosh, who was it? The Vikings?
It was the Vikings.
Yeah, that whole game
that
a
rip
couple
on
years
Stephon
ago.
Diggs. Yeah.
The rip on, oh yeah. Oh, that was a great ending. Yeah. Anyway. NFL
What would they call that? Like the Minnesota Miracle or something like that?
Yeah, Minneapolis Miracle.
Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah, no, I think I watched that game live at Dave & Buster's.
That was Dave & Buster's. What a low-key great place. Wild point. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. You're going to be here. We're going to have a lot of folks over here, so we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. But, I'm not an Eagles fan, as they did burn my Patriots in the Super Bowl one year. But you know what? Go Eagles.
Go Chiefs.
Go any team that's not the Chiefs. All right, buddy. Cheers. Great episode. Let's pound it out.
Let's do it.